Good evening, everyone. Another session of the webinar conducted by our study circle. And today we have among us Mr. L.S. Satyamurthy, District Judge, Special Court, CBI cases, Chennai, a erudite and multifaceted person, not only in subject of law, in Tamil literature and other general aspects. And the learned judge has authored a book titled Voices of the Populist Jurisprudence about Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer and his proactive pronouncement. And the learned judge was one among few participants from India in a workshop held in 2017 on road safety by World Health Organization at Geneva in Switzerland. And the learned judge regularly writes articles in law journals like CPC, MLJ, and also on general subjects in important national daily. I feel it's my privilege to welcome the learned judge, our resource person, to give his lecture on the topic plaint, return, rejection, and struck off. On behalf of Study Circle and the participants, I welcome the learned judge. Sir, the floor is yours now, sir.
So thank you, Mr. Satish, for your warm and kind introduction about me. I'm thankful to the organizers and the participants for providing me such an opportunity to interact with you and also to express some of my views on the plaint, its return, its rejection and strike off. Of course, I'm not going to introduce or I'm not going to tell you any new facts or new law or anything. All the things that we have learned already, but often we are conveniently forgetting certain things. Now that this is an opportunity to recollect, refresh, and also apply it in an interpretive manner and also to get the justice and also to render justice. Learned seniors are here. I need not say the history of the CPC. It was after the advent of the court, a structured justice dispensing institution in India. A necessity was arisen for an adjective law that introduced a uniform adjudicatory process. Therefore, the Civil Procedure Code Act 8 of 1859 was introduced in India and it survived for about 2 decades. Thereafter, 2 more civil procedures codes, 1877 and 1888, were introduced. At last, by the committee headed by Sir Earl Richard, drafted a comprehensive civil procedure code in 1908 and it came into effect on 1st January 1909. I could proudly say the Civil Procedure Code 1908 is the longest surviving adjective law in the world. We very often claimly proud that IPC is the longest surviving penal code. And I could say that the CPC 1908 is the longest surviving procedural law in the world. After it came into force in 1st January 1909, almost 111 years rolled over. There are amendments have been introduced in the year 1951-56. Among the amendments, the 1976 amendments is a very important amendment. It has introduced certain important principles in the Civil Procedure Code. The salutary principle of lodging caveat under section 148A CPC was introduced in the amendment by an amendment of the year 1976. The principles of res judicata also widened by inserting the explanations 7 and 8 in section 11. The practice of passing preliminary degree and final degree, a 2-tier method, was there in force for almost all the suits, but that has been reduced and confined to the suit for partition, specific performance, and mortgages. Thereafter, during the course of attachment, during the course of execution, almost all the properties were attachable and they can be they can be sold after attaching. But exemptions were granted to stipend and the salary, a portion of the salary from the attachment by introducing an amendment in the year 1976. The mandatory compliance of Section 80 before Section 80 notice before filing a suit against the government was reduced to only to certain claims. There are important amendments that are there, but Order 7, Rule 11 CPC was substantially broadened. The scope of rejection of the plaint was broadened by the amendment of the year 1976. Thereafter, we all know that as recommended by Justice Malimath Committee and as directed by the Honorable Supreme Court in the Salem Bar Association case in 2003, 1 SEC page 49 and 2005, 6 SEC page 344. The CPC, lot of amendments have been inserted in the CPC. CPC, the Supreme Court has observed in Prem Lala Nahata versus Prem Sikaria, 2007, 5 SEC page 551. CPC consolidates and amends the laws relating to the procedure of the courts of civil judicature. No doubt, it also deals with certain substantive right, but its essential object is to consolidate the law relating to civil procedure. As of now, there are 158 sections and 51 orders in the CPC, first schedule of the CPC, and there are appendix also there. Sections are the subject matters of the legislature. It can be amended by the legislature. The first schedule of containing orders and rules can be amended by the High Courts. Therefore, the CPC can be viewed as a blend of both legislative product and as a judge-made laws. The Honorable Supreme Court had studied the structure of the CPC in Warid Jacob versus Sosa Maji Varghese, 2004, 6 SEC page 378, and described that the CPC creates jurisdiction. The sections in the CPC creates jurisdiction, while the rules indicate the manner in which the jurisdiction to be exercised. With this brief introduction about the CPC, now let us move to the plaint. There are as many as 21 terms defined in Section 2 of CPC, but the term plaint is not defined in it. But the mandatory particulars to be contained in the plaint are given in Order 7, Rule 1 CPC. And as many as 49 pro formas of plaints are prescribed in Appendix A. The Honorable Madras High Court in the year 1899 has defined and explained what is plaint. It has explained it is a private memorial tendered to a court in which a person sets forth its cause of action, exhibition of an action in writing. That is the earliest definition for the plaint by the Madras High Court. Before, when the writing plaint is the written memorandum tendered to a court. Before the practice of reducing the facts into writing, in United Kingdom there were laws of oral pleadings were allowed, verbal representations were allowed. After that, the law of pleadings, then when there were a lot of even humors were pleaded in the UK. Humors were jokes were pleaded in the plaint. Some fictitious facts were pleaded in the plaint. A small facts were pleaded in the 2,000 sheets of a plaint. The courts have imposed cost upon such pleadings, and the law of pleading have emerged. Thereafter, the plaint has become a shape, a good shape. Now that, though there is no definition for the plaint in the CPC, there are 49 pro formas there in the appendix. And what shall be the content of the pleadings or plaint there are in order 7 and rule 1. With these details, the plaints are every suit has to be instituted by presentation of a plaint. The scope of the plaint, is it is a writing memorandum tendered by a person to establish his right and explaining the relief he wants, and also making a cause of action, defining the cause of action which made him to file the suit. The plaints presented into the court can be returned. The return of plaint has been recognized in CPC under Order 7, Rule 10 CPC. The plaint presented into the court can be returned for representation before a proper forum of court. If the court has got no territorial jurisdiction, if the court has got no pecuniary jurisdiction, the plaint can be returned for the purpose of representation before the proper forum of law. The one interesting incident was a plaint was presented before a court. The court has returned the plaint as if with an endorsement that this court has no jurisdiction, so this plaint may be represented before the proper forum of law. When the plaintiff's counsel who took back the plaint from the office of the court has made some amendments and also presented it into the court, which has jurisdiction to try the suit. The defendant has filed a petition for rejection of the plaint on the ground that the plaintiff's counsel has amended the plaint without the consent and permission of the court. Therefore, the plaint has to be rejected. But the Supreme Court has held in Hanamantappa versus Chandrasekharappa, 1997, 9 SEC, page 688. The plaint returned from the court and represented before another court must be treated to be a fresh plaint. The represented plaint has to consider as a fresh plaint, the subject to limitation and jurisdiction. Therefore, the plaint which has been returned and which is took back from the office of the court is the document of the person who has presented it, and he can amend it suitably and represent it before the court of law, and the court of law to which it was represented has to treat it as a fresh plaint. The rejection, coming to the return of the rejection of plaint, the scope of the rejection of plaint has been widened by Amendment 104 of 1976, as I just now stated before. The amendment came into effect on 1st February 1976. Immediately after the amendment came into effect, the first case was decided by the Supreme Court on 14th October 1977. The Honorable Supreme Court in T. Arivanandam versus T.V. Satyapal, it was a case decided by Justice V.R. Krishnaiyer. Justice V.R. Krishnaiyer decided the first rejection of plaint application immediately after the amendment came into effect. He has observed that the Order 7, Rule 11 is a remedy against the frivolous suits. And the Order 7, Rule 11 is a remedy against the litigative addictions and fake litigations. He has observed that he has introduced a word that the suit at sight, when a plaint is not properly valued, the suit, when the plaint has not been properly presented, when the plaint has a cause of no cause of action, then the plaint has to be rejected as suit at site. He has introduced a word, a term there is a litigative credibility. Litigative credibility and litigative bankruptcy. When a person has no litigative credibility or litigative when he is not at all presenting the plaint in a manner known to law, it can be rejected by the court. He has said that while rejecting the plaint, the court can also impose cost, and the veteran litigants can also be dealt with the Chapter 11 of the CPC. And before looking into the rejection of plaint, one more interesting episode is the plaint was presented by the plaintiff before a district court, paying a huge sum towards the court fee. But the district judge was of the view that the plaint should have presented before the Munsif court, which has the pecuniary jurisdiction. On those days, the district court was having unlimited pecuniary jurisdiction. The plaintiff has valued the suit property and has paid excessive court fee. Therefore, the district judge was of the view the plaint should have been presented before the district Munsif court. Therefore, he has returned the plaint to represent it before the district Munsif court. The advocate who was the counsel for the plaintiff has represented the plaint before the Munsif court. And the interesting question was whether the party can seek refund of the court fee excessively paid by him, because he has valued the suit property in a higher, more than that of the actual value, and he has also paid excessive court fee. Therefore, now that whether the plaintiff can get the refund of court fee, it was decided in the Madras High Court in Sarabamma versus Peda Veeramma. Sarabamma versus Peda Veeramma, 1949 2 MLJ page 159. That the plaintiff can seek refund of the court fee when the same plaint is represented with the necessary amendment in the valuation column of the plaint. The Sugna Poultry case decided by the Madras High Court in 2005, AIR 2005 Madras, page 72, is a important decision in this aspect. The plaintiff has filed a suit with ulterior motive in a court of choice, knowing fully well that the said court has got no jurisdiction, and the party affected was also not impleaded with evil motive of obtaining relief behind his back. It was held that the benefit of the return of plaint for representation before the proper court is to be denied to the plaintiff, because the plaintiff has approached the court with an ulterior motive to snatch an order from the court, and without actually affecting party was impleading as a defendant in the suit. Therefore, the Sugna Poultry Farm Limited versus Arul Maniamman Textile Limited case, AIR 2005 Madras, page 72, the Madras High Court has held that the plaint should not be returned to the plaintiff to avail the benefit of representing it before the proper forum of law and to get the order. Instead of that, it has to be deleted from this suit file, from the suit register. In an application for injunction under Order 39, Rule 1 and 2 was moved along with the suit, dispensing with the notice to be issued to the government under Section 80. The court has returned the plaint, stating that the plaint the plaintiff should have issued a notice prior to the filing of suit. But the plaintiff has filed an application under section 80 subclass 2 of the CPC to dispense with the notice to be sent to the government. In such cases, the plaint should not be returned, but the court has to dispense with the court has to first look into the petition filed under section 80 subclass 2 of the CPC and proceed with the plaint. So what is the remedy against the order of return of plaint? If a plaint is returned, and if the plaintiff is not agreed with the endorsement made as per order 7 rule 10, an appeal lies from an order of returning plaint to be presented before proper court. The order order of return of plaint shall consist of the date of presentation of plaint and the date of return of the plaint and a reason to be assigned by the judge for what purpose the plaint has been returned. If the plaintiff is aggrieved against the order of the judge, he can prefer an appeal under order 43 rule 1 CPC. Now that I would like to enlighten all of you as to how the decision and view of the Honorable Madras High Court has prevailed upon the view of the Honorable Calcutta High Court. There was an incident. A files a plaint in a district municipal court. A files a plaint in a district municipal court. The district municipal returns the plaint for representation before the proper court, holding that this court is beyond, the suit claim is beyond his pecuniary jurisdiction. Therefore, the municipal court has returned the plaint as if the court has no pecuniary jurisdiction to try the suit. The plaintiff who presented the plaint received back the plaint, and as directed by the municipal court, he has presented it before the subordinate court. The subordinate judge who has perused the plaint averments came to a conclusion that no, this court has no jurisdiction to try the suit. This plaint should have been filed before the municipal court. The plaintiff has rightly filed it before the municipal court. It is for the municipal court to try the suit, and it is the municipal court which has got the jurisdiction to try the suit. Therefore, again, the plaintiff has received back the suit plaint from the subordinate court, and he was under dilemma what to do. Is A entitled to the district? Is A entitled to appeal to the district court from the order of the district municipal, having regard to the fact that he, in obedience to that order, filed the plaint in the subjudge order? This was a question answered in a negative by the Calcutta High Court. Calcutta High Court has held that no, you are the plaintiff. You have complied with the order of the district municipal, and you have also represented the plaint before the subcourt. Having complied with the direction of the district municipal, you have no right to prefer an appeal against the order of the same municipal. But the later, that view was doubted by the same Calcutta High Court in Beni Madhav versus Jyotendra, the oldest case reported in 5 Calcutta Law Journal 580. When these matters when this aspect was not settled before the Calcutta High Court, an interesting case came up before the Madras High Court. Narayan Nair versus Cherita Kadiri, AR 41 Madras, page 721. 34 Madras Law Journal, page 397. The corresponding decision, the report was AR 41 Madras, page 721, and 34 Madras Law Journal, 397. It was held, right of appeal conferred under Order 43 Rule 1 could not, by the reason of the order having been complied with by the plaintiff, has waived off. Therefore, even though the plaintiff has complied with the direction of the district munsif, still he has an option to challenge the order if it is not in accordance with law, if it is contrary to the held provisions of law. The Calcutta High Court has subsequently held that if a party reserves, when he represents the plaintiff, his right to appeal against the order will not last, and he can prefer the appeal. The doctrine of election or estoppel has no application to the case, and the party is entitled to exercise his right conferred under Order 43, Rule 1. Mullah, in his Civil Procedure Code, has greeted the Madras High Court with encomium, and he has narrated it how the view of the Madras High Court was prevailed upon the view of the Calcutta High Court. The latest pronouncement on the return of the plaintiff is Nadesan Pusari versus K.M. Sundaramurthy, the famous Annamar Ponnar Sankar temple case decided by the Madras High Court on 6/8/2019. It was a case where the defendant filed a petition for return of the plaintiff as if the cause of action was not there in the suit, and for other reasons, the defendant has sought for a return of the plaintiff, not rejection of the plaintiff, return of the plaintiff. The High Court has perused all the records and carefully read all the averments and held that the defendant cannot seek return of the plaintiff as a matter of right, as there are materials to proceed with the case. Coming to the rejection of plaintiff. Rejection of plaintiff is a right can be exercised for 7 reasons. Whether the plaintiff, if the plaintiff does not disclose a cause of action, where the relief claimed in the plaintiff is undervalued, and the plaintiff being required by the court to correct the valuation within the time fixed by the court fails to do so, where the plaintiff, where the relief claimed in the plaintiff is properly valued, but the plaintiff is written upon paper insufficiently stamped, and the plaintiff, on being required by the court to supply the requisite stamp paper within time to be fixed by the court, but the plaintiff fails to do so, where the plaintiff is expressly barred by any law. These are all the 4 major grounds for rejection of plaintiff. And then the 1976 amendment, which came into effect from 1st February 1977, has added one more reason. Thereafter, 1999 and 2000 amendments have also made 2 more reasons. As of now, there are 7 reasons available to seek the rejection of plaintiff. Anyway, Justice V.R. Krishnaiyer in Arivanandam versus Satyapal case 1977 4 SCC page 467 has said that rejection of plaintiff is like a shoot at sight remedy, and an activist judge is the answer to the irresponsible lawsuits. The trial court should insist imperatively on examining the party at the first hearing so that bogus litigation can be shot down at the earliest stage. According to Justice V.R. Krishnaiyer, the Order 7 Rule 11 is not an exhaustive remedy, is not exhaustive. There are other reasons to reject the plaintiff. The meaningful reading, meaningful, not a formal reading of plaintiff. It is manifestly found to be vexatious or not meritless, in the sense of not disclosing a clear right to sue. The court must exercise its power of rejection of plaintiff under this rule. It is not a formal reading of plaintiff. A meaningful reading of plaintiff, if does not disclose the cause of action and if it not disclose the clear right to sue by the plaintiff, then Order 7, Rule 11 can be invoked. Now that in Order 7, Rule 11, the word employed by the framers of the court is the rejection of plaint. The incidental question that was arised was, other than plaint, whether a petition can be whether a petition which fulfills the ingredients of Order 7, Rule 11 can be rejected by a court. Because the framers of CPC have used the word plaint. The Allahabad High Court in Shyam versus Ramlal, AR 1987, Allahabad, page 323, AR 1987, Allahabad, page 323, has held that an election petition which does not disclose the cause of action can be rejected by invoking Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. The Supreme Court in Rajiv Gandhi versus Azhar Hussain case, Rajiv Gandhi versus Azhar Hussain, AR 1986, Supreme Court 1253, has upheld the rejection of an election petition by the Allahabad High Court. Therefore, Order 7, Rule 11, the word plaint implied in it now has been widened or has been creatively expanded to include the election petitions also. Therefore, if an election petition fulfills the ingredients of Order 7, Rule 11, there are 7 grounds. Or if the election petition is vexatious, on the prima facie it was vexatious, then Order 7, Rule 11 can be invoked and it can be rejected. The Allahabad High Court has earlier rejected. Subsequently, in 1989, the Supreme Court has upheld that the rejection of election petition is valid by invoking Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. One more question is, when a plaint is not survived, there is no cause of action and there are several defects in it. Can it be partly rejected? Whether a portion of the plaint can be rejected and remaining can be allowed to continue as a suit? The Delhi High Court has answered that in Anuresh Punita versus Boston Scientific Corporation. Anuresh Punita versus Boston Scientific Corporation. Delhi High Court decided it on 25/8/2005. The concept of partial rejection is apparently inapplicable to the provisions of Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. It would be limited to Order 6, Rule 16 of the court. There can be a partial striking out of the pleadings, whereas if the plaint wants to be dealt with under Order 7, Rule 11, it can be either wholly rejected or wholly accepted. The decision was also subsequently upheld in Rooplal Sati versus Nachar Singh Gill. Rooplal Sati versus Nachar Singh Gill, 1982, 3 SCC, page 487. It was an election petition before the High Court. The High Court struck off the allegations raised in some of the paragraphs. The Apex Court has held that pleadings can be struck off for various reasons as contemplated in Order 6. But if at all, if the plaint can be rejected, it should be either rejected wholly or it has to be remain in the suit register and it has to be contested. What is the nature of the remedy under Order 7, Rule 11? The Order 7, Rule 11 is an exclusive remedy available to the defendant in a suit. A defendant has a right to defend the suit claim. He also has a right to make a counterclaim. A defendant is also entitled to make a set-off. Therefore, three rights are bestowed upon the defendants in the framework of the civil jurisprudence. In addition to that, the right of seeking rejection of plaint under Order 7, Rule 11 CPC has been described by the Supreme Court in Popat and Kocheta Property versus SBI Staff Association. Popat and Kochia Property versus SBI Staff Association case reported in 2007 14 SCC page 189. It was held that the right available to the defendant in a suit to invoke Order 7 Rule 11 is an independent right. It is an independent right. It is nothing to do with his right to defend the suit claim, to make a counterclaim, or to put a set off. It is an independent right. Why it is an independent right? The reason is rejection of a plaint under Order 7 Rule 11 will not preclude the plaintiff from filing a fresh suit for the same fresh suit against the same defendant. Therefore, it is an independent right. This is what the Supreme Court has described in the SBI Staff Association case 2007 14 SCC page 189. And now that, as I emphasized, rejection of a plaint is a right, is an independent right of the defendant. Whether a third party can seek a rejection of a plaint, a party, a person who is not at all a framework of the suit, who is not at all there in the frame of the suit, can seek a rejection of plaint under Order 7 Rule 11 CPC. It was also an interesting question. Came up before the Delhi High Court. Pratap Chand versus Krishna Devi. Pratap Chand versus Krishna Devi. AIR 1988, Delhi, page 267. AIR 1988, Delhi, page 267. The plaintiff has filed a suit in an extraordinary circumstances. The plaint was drafted for about a month ago. The lawyer said, I have presented it, it will be numbered. There is a delay in administrative process there. It will get numbered very soon. By this time when the plaint was presented before the court, unfortunately, the defendant was not alive. Therefore, it was a plaint presented against a dead person. There was only a sole defendant, the sole defendant, against whom the plaint was presented. He was not alive at the time of the presentation of the plaint. Therefore, this plaint is a nullity. After the plaint get numbered, the defendant filed the plaintiff filed an application under Order 22 Rule 4 to bring the legal representatives of the deceased defendant on record. But one of the legal has filed an application under Order 7 Rule 11 CPC, though he has not entered into the framework of the suit, and though he has not brought on record as legal representative of the deceased defendant. His application was entertained by the court, and the court has dismissed the application filed by the plaintiff under Order 22 Rule 4 to bring the legal representative of the deceased defendant on record, and allowed the Order 7 Rule 11 application filed by the third person who claimed to be the legal heir of the defendant and rejected the plaint. It is an interesting decision by the Delhi High Court by Pratap Chand versus Krishna Devi, AIR 1988, Delhi, page 267. Now that we have an alternative dispute resolution mechanism is in force, there are a lot of disputes are being referred for arbitration. One interesting question has arose whether a pendency of a petition under Order 7 Rule 11 CPC prevents the arbitrator from proceedings with the arbitration was a seminal question in a case in Vijay Kumar Sharma versus Raghunandan Sharma. Vijay Kumar Sharma versus Raghunandan Sharma, 2010, 2 SCC, page 486. 2010, 2 SCC, page 486. Both the plaintiff and defendant were brothers in this suit. The plaintiff and defendants, when they were fighting, the plaintiff has filed a suit on the basis of a will for declaration and recovery of possession. The defendant has filed a suit for partition and for separate possession. In the meanwhile, there are a lot of properties were sold and a lot of things have happened. Now that the court has clubbed the suits and also appointed an arbitrator for amicable settlement of the dispute. In the meanwhile, one of the party has filed a petition under Order 7, Rule 11. It was dismissed by the trial court, holding the dispute is arbitrable and it can be amicably settled. Therefore, the petition for rejection of plaint was dismissed. The aggrieved party has preferred an appeal, and the appeal was pending on the file of the High Court. Therefore, the petition, the appeal under Order 7, for petition under Order 7, Rule 11 CPC was subjudiced before the High Court. At this stage, whether the arbitrator has a right, whether he can proceed with the arbitration, the Supreme Court has held that the arbitrator, there is no bar for the arbitrator to proceed with the arbitration proceedings. Therefore, the arbitrator can proceed with the arbitration even though any applications are subjudiced under Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. Yet another question, very important, the question that came into thought. What is the idea of rejection of plaint? The idea of rejection of plaint was explained by the Supreme Court in Liverpool and London SP versus I Association Limited. MVC success, Liverpool London case reported in 2004 9 SCC page 512. 2004 9 SCC page 512, it is a decision by the Supreme Court when the cause of action is not disclosed. The courts will not unnecessarily protract the hearing of the suit. Having regard to the changes in the legislative policy as adopted and amendments carried out in the CPC, a litigation which in the opinion of the courts is deemed to fail would not further be allowed to use as a device to harass a litigant. That is the idea of the rejection of plaint. And that at what stage the rejection of plaint can be done. In Salim Bhai versus State of Maharashtra, in Salim Bhai versus State of Maharashtra, 2003, 1 SCC page 557, it was held by the Supreme Court that Order 7 Rule 11 CPC, the materials to be looked into are the averments in the plaint, and the power and conferred upon the court under Order 7 Rule 11 can be invoked by the court at any time, at any stage of the suit, before registering the suit, plaint, after registering, but before issuing summons to the defendant, and at any stage before the conclusion of the trial. Order 7 Rule 11 can be invoked. The materials to be looked into are the averments in the plaint. A plaint, a suit appeal is always considered to be a continuation of the suit. At what stage a plaint can be rejected is there in at any stage a plaint can be rejected under Order 7 Rule. Whether a plaint can be rejected by an appellate court, there is a conflicting opinion prevailing about the rejection of plaint during appellate stage. The Kerala High Court in the state of Kerala versus Umesh Rao, state of Kerala versus Umesh Rao, EAR 1998 Kerala page 391 has held that provision of Order 7, Rule 11 CPC is not applicable to the appeals. But the other high courts have not concurred with this view. Hamid Ahmed versus Asad Muhid and others, there is one judgment. In this judgment, the court has held that fine can be rejected even by the appellate court. But before making such a rejection, the orders which has been passed by the court has to be setting aside the order. The appellate court has to reject the plaint. And then one more question is, by reflex of time or by the subsequent events, a relief claimed by the suit has become infructuous, or the suit became infructuous by the subsequent event. In such occasions, whether a plaint can be rejected on the ground that the suit relief has become infructuous. The Supreme Court in Shipping Corporation of India versus Machado Brothers, Shipping Corporation of India versus Machado Brothers, AIR 2004 Supreme Court 2093. AIR 2004 Supreme Court page 2093. The Supreme Court has clarified, if the suit relief became infructuous by the subsequent event, the plaint cannot be rejected by invoking Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. Instead of that, the court shall make necessary inquiry into the facts and circumstances and the subsequent events which made the suit claim infructuous, and after satisfying itself, the court has to apply its inherent jurisdiction under Section 151 CPC and dismiss the suit on the ground of relief has become infructuous. So the infructuous suit cannot be rejected under Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. When these are all the matters, the important event, one of the important event is the jurists have made a research, which is the oldest, which is the gravest plaint filed which is the gravest plaint, or which is the vexatious plaint in the world ever filed in the court. Sir Robert Megare, Queen's Counsel, has described a civil suit in Everett versus William, not Everest, Everett versus William. It was a suit for specific performance of a contract. The plaintiff and defendants are highwaymen, they are the robbers. They have filed a suit before the court of equity, and their contract was who has to commit a claim of robbery and dacoity, and where they have to commit the crime, and how to divide the proceeds of crimes among them. One of the robber was not willing to share the proceeds of crime as agreed in the agreement. Therefore, a suit for specific performance of contract was filed. It was the case with the strangest effects. The plaint has been defined as a strangest effects. The consequences of the case was the plaint was not only rejected to the legal waste paper basket. The counsels, the solicitors who have drafted the plaint were fined by the court, and the barrister who have been represented for the plaintiff and defendant were also asked to pay the cost of the proceedings to the court, and both the parties to the suit who have robbed several places were secured, and they were executed by hanging. Such was the drastic and dire consequences of a plaint which was presented before the Court of England, the Court of Equity before the in the year. It was reported in 17259 LQ R 197. It was a English case, Everett versus William. Sir Robert Maguire QC has described it is the civil suit filed with vexatious claims and scandalous allegations. With these facts and with these case laws, now we shall move on to the struck off of the plaint. Strike off of the plaint is governed under Article 226 or 227, the superintending power of the High Court. The latest decision in this point is S. Kanagaraj versus S. Ramatilakam, reported in 2018 to Madras Weekly Notes Civil, page 236. In this case, the Madras High Court has referred many of the judgments of the Supreme Court and has held that if any party with unclean hands tries to, when unclean hands approach the court to pollute the pure fountain of the justice, then he has to be dealt with iron hands and the plaint has to be struck off from the suit registers. This is the view, my view on the plaint rejection, return, rejection, and strike off. Whatever I have read and whatever I have dealt with, I have shared with you. I hope now, if you have any doubt, I can clarify with my level best.
Thank you, sir. One Mr. Amudan has raised a query. A sold his property through power of attorney to B. After 5 years, A filed case against the power of attorney and the purchaser for cancellation of the sale. While pendency of the suit, plaintiff died and the legal representatives entered into the suit. And they also filed a partition suit by impleading the purchaser. Can we file a rejection of suit in this matter? Basically, it appears to be wanted a free consultation in.
He wants a legal opinion from me.
Yes, apparently.
Sir, legal opinion, I am not supposed to render any legal opinion. Anyway, if the plaint, if there is no cause of action, if the plaintiff has not disclosed any cause of action, if there is any fraud played by any of the parties, plaintiff, then the defendant can file a suit for file a petition under Order 7, Rule 11. It's an independent remedy, sir. He can avail. It is up to him. If it is within the framework of Order 7, Rule 11, he can avail it. That's all. Sir, your voice is.
Yes, sir. Another person who has not identified, they are identified only as Redmi Mobile, raised a question. He has raised a hand. He or she has raised the hands. They can unmute themselves and come online.
Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
You are audible.
Good evening, Aya.
Good evening.
The grassroots democracy, but from the grassroots level, it has been explained by you, Aya. I have two doubts.
No, Aya and all. No formal.
I have been in practice, so.
Address by name. So what? But you need not practice here.
That's what.
Yes.
I am now a lecturer in Sastra University, School of Law.
Yes.
I mean, my question is Section 35A, compensatory cost in respect of false and frivolous litigation.
Yes.
What is the scope of that Section 35A, Aya?
Section 35A, compensatory cost can be imposed. You can see a plain reading of Section 35A would show that in respect of vexatious claims or defenses, the compensatory cost can be imposed after dismissal of the petition. After dismissal of the suit,
Suit.
compensatory cost can be invoked. See, compensatory cost cannot be invoked at the inception of the trial. After full trial, if the court comes to a conclusion that the suit is liable to be dismissed on the ground that there is a vexatious claim, then it can impose cost upon the plaintiff. Cost against the plaintiff, and the defendant can avail it. If the defendant has made a vexatious defenses, then the plaintiff can succeed and the cost will be imposed against the defendant. Section 35A is based on the doctrine that losser pay all. Losser has to pay the cost.
No, one who loses has to pay. Is it that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it is having this one provides, exclusion, excluding
Yes.
an appeal or a revision.
Mm.
Section 35A. What does
Yes.
that mean? Excluding an appeal or a revision. Why is it so?
Yes. It is for the if any suit, it is other proceedings, including execution proceedings. The section 35A is applicable to a trial court where suit or other proceedings, including execution, but not appeal or revision. So
Revision.
section 35A may not be applicable to appeal or revision.
So it is there in the act.
If at all
Yeah.
appellate court has or the revisional court has to impose cost, they can impose cost on other provisions of law,
Yes, I understood. The
not
second
under
question,
section 35A,
35A is only for the trial courts
trial court.
jurisdiction. And the second question, the last question which I have is return procedures followed in the courts.
Yes.
Of just silly reasons and also unjustifiable reasons, they are keeping returns of the plaint. For
Yes.
example, on the initial portal, something, all these
Yes.
court officials are keeping returns for vexatious reasons, silly reasons. How many times can the return process be followed?
You
My
mean any
understanding-
maximum number of time?
Yeah,
maximum
fly sheet
number of time
attach பண்ணி plaint இவ்வளவு பெருசுக்கு வந்துருது. They could even call the concerned councils and rectify the smallest mistake. For that, a formal return is being kept. Why
See,
can't the people be advised and also given training?
as I have read that Arivanandam versus Satyapal case, 1977 Supreme Court, an activist judge is the answer to this question. An activist judge has to apply his mind. It is not that the office has to make returns. It is a judge has to apply his mind. If there is small errors, inadvertible errors, if the omission of putting signatures by the council and all, it
Yes,
can
sir,
be
yeah.
brought to the notice of the council then and there, even in the open court, or it can be brought to the notice through his advocate counsel, the other friends, and we can obtain them and get it
Yeah.
numbered. It's all depends upon the, as Krishnayar has rightly said, it is the activist, the judge is the answer for this.
Sir, we can't put the blame on the judges. Yeah. My senior, who's the first woman advocate of Tanjavur district, Mrs. N. Pungodai, she used to say that not more than 3 times return could be done by the court. The third time, it's a duty of the Sarasdars
court
or
to call it in the open court.
and to call the advocates and rectify the errors. But they are not at all following those. Yeah. They should be given some sort of enlightened training. So it is causing much more delay for the suits. That is my humblest opinion.
Yes.
Thank you.
agree
Yeah,
with
it was
you.
a good session.
I agree.
And later
Thank you
when,
so
madam,
much.
you could have raised that with that presiding judge, not over here.
Presiding judge கிட்ட சொல்ல முடியாது அதனால இங்க
What can we do here now?
இல்ல I am a presiding judge தானே, so it is just a opinion
Anyway,
based question.
your point is got, madam.
Yeah, thank
Sir,
you.
one Mr. Ilangovan,
Mm.
he has raised a doubt whether a suit can be rejected on the ground of abuse of process of law.
Abuse of process of law can see. Order 7, Rule 11 CPC is not exhaustive. The grounds mentioned there is not exhaustive. There are other grounds. If the plaintiff is approaching the court of law by abusing the process of law, the plaintiff has to be dealt with the iron hand. It has to be rejected in limine, and as one of the spectator has rightly pointed out, cost also to be imposed. It can be rejected or if not rejected, if it is not comes within the grounds mentioned in Order 7, Rule 11, the superintending power of the High Court, that is what I have referred just now, the last decision I have referred, yes, Ramalingam versus yes, Kanagaraj case, 2018, 2 Madras Weekly Notes, page 480, civil page 236. It can be dealt under Order 227. The suit can be, the plaint can be thrown out. There is no bar for it.
Sir, another question from Nirmal Singh Hira.
Yes.
Yes, raised, sir, what is the remedy available to the defendant in case, as you said, that if the plaint is rejected in the appellate stage?
If the plaint is rejected in the appellate state, the orders what are all passed by in the earlier courts will be setting, the appellate court cannot straight away pass an order, blanket order or mechanical order as if the plaint is rejected. He has to set aside the previous orders, all the orders. And the plaintiff will be in a safer position, because if the plaintiff is an appellant, there will be no case against him, because the plaint itself is rejected. Even if the plaintiff, if the defendant is a respondent, there is no loss to him. Defendant is it is a provision which makes the defendant to use it. So if the plaint is rejected, then the defendant is a beneficiary of that. What way? There will be no harm for him. The appellate court will set aside all the earlier orders and reject the plaint. That is the procedure prescribed therein.
In other ways, there is, as such, there is no suit is filed against the defendant.
Yes, he is out of court, nothing.
Yes. Sir, another question.
Yes.
What is the difference between or distinguishing between the return by the registry and the return by the court order?
Sir, return by the registry, in the sense, even registry only is dealing with the clerical aspect. This advocate signature has not subscribed, or any registry, we use that this. Even though it is returned by a registry, so far as the subordinate courts are concerned, it is signed by a judge. It is not that the Sirastar or head clerk is putting his signature. It is signed by a judge. So it is an order. As I have said, that return of against the order of return of the plaint, Order 43 Rule 1 is there. Though it is returned by a registry, if it is a sub-court or district court or the municipal court, the signature of the judge will be there. So it deemed to be an order of a judge, against which an appeal is available.
Sir, another question from one Ganesh Tirunavagar, sir. Whether a defense can be struck off if the defendant failed to obey the order of interim injunction directing the defendant to maintain plaintiff should be the plain property till the disposal of the suit.
Defense can be struck off.
Yes.
How can we defendant has a right to defend? How can we prevent a defendant from making his plea? It means that how can prevent neither the court nor anybody can prevent the defendant from making his pleas or putting forth these facts. If at all he disobeyed, Order 39 Rule A is there. Order 39 Rule A and other procedures are there. We can't prevent him from making his defense in a full-fledged manner. It won't be a fair trial also.
Sir, one Raghavendran has raised it out. Sir, can the court on suo motu reject the suit under Order 7 Rule 11? If so, at what stage, sir? Can the judge reject the suit even before it's numbered, citing Order 7 Rule 11?
A plaint cannot be rejected before numbering it. It can be returned for rectification of error. It can be returned for representation before the proper forum of law. It can't be rejected even before assigning a number to it. One aspect. And then, Suemoto rejection of plaint is not, I have not heard about any courts of Suemoto rejected any plaint, or there is no reported case of Suemoto rejection, Suemoto invoking of Order 7, Rule 11 by the courts. As I understood from the plain reading of Order 7, Rule 11, it is the right of the defendant. A right has to exercise by the defendant, and the court has to appreciate it on the merits. Order 7, Rule 11, to my understanding, cannot be applied by the court on Suemoto. If at all the suit claim is infructuous, as I explained there in my lecture, if the suit claim is infructuous, the court can dismiss the suit, not reject the suit. So, in my view, Order 7, Rule 11 cannot be invoked by the court without an application by the defendant. Sir, I couldn't hear you, sir.
Sorry. I have muted myself. Sorry.
Yes.
Sir, one Mr. Jay Ganesh has raised doubt. My doubt is, what are the remedies available when a plaint is rejected in the appellate stage but processed through the lower court?
If the plaint is rejected on the appellate court, the plaint can be rejected only by invoking Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. There is no other provision in CPC. So as I said you already, if at all the appellate judge want to reject the plaint, he has to set aside the orders passed, if any, in the earlier proceedings. First of all, he has to set aside the judgment or decree or dismissal of the suit. Any orders passed in it has to be set aside. Thereafter, the plaint has to be rejected by invoking Order 7, Rule 11 CPC. Order 7, if an order is passed under Order 7, Rule 11 CPC, it is an appealable order. If at all aggrieved, the party can prefer an appeal. That is the left option open to the aggrieved party.
Sir, another question by Ramakash. Sir, do you think that the advent of artificial intelligence would help the speed up the process of return and subsequent filing of the plaint? How would digital technology change the practicality of rejection and return of plaint?
Digital technology, we have to apply. We can't answer it for the technology. Technology is a solution as well as a problem. Technology is a solution to some aspect and a problem to some other aspect. So we have to apply it, and it is only a trial and error process. We have to apply. We have to modify certain things. Thereafter, we can come to. We cannot say it is a thing. It requires more vision to answer these questions. So we have to first of all adopt the technologies, and we have to apply them in a grassroots level. After that only, we have to see whether the artificial intelligence is helpful for expeditious trial, for to enhance the justice to the poor litigant. This aspect has to be tested by applying the artificial intelligence.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other questions? Participants can raise their hands or rake it in the chat box. So we can safely presume that there is no doubts. One Mr. Velusamy from Madurai, advocate, has thanked you for your wonderful lecture, sir, in the chat box.
Valuable times.
Sorry, sir. I have muted you. You can come again, sir.
Yes. I am grateful to the organizers of Study Circle for providing me.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm I Krishnan, advocate from Madras High Court, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time, for your patience, for your questions, and making me to update. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a nice evening. You have taken us through one of the essentials of a civil practice. as to the planes, its returns and rejections, because most of the days, with many special legislation these days, it has become a norm that the planes are being rejected. So you have given us a wonderful insight on that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
Mr.
so much.
Sivashanmugam will
With this meeting, sir, one thing, I thank the honorable judge for accepting our request and came with this wonderful lecture forthwith. In fact, only during last week we approached him for his lecture, and he immediately accepted and gave us this wonderful lecture. And I thank you, sir. And it was,
Thank you so much.
was
Sure,
really.
I want to thank the judge. Sir, this is Sundar Mohan.
Sir, thank you so much, sir.
Well researched, sir. I enjoyed it.
No.
Well researched. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your kind appreciation, sir.
Thank you. With this, I call off this meeting. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time and patience, sir.